Hi guys, welcome to the Pink Welder. My name is Liv. I'm so glad you're here with me over on YouTube today. If you don't know me, my name's Liv. I'm a permanent jewelry artist based in Tennessee, and I have a podcast where I talk about permanent jewelry, talk with other permanent jewelry artists, industry leaders, trainers, stuff like that over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So I'd appreciate if you go give me a follow if you're interested in permanent jewelry. I highly suggest, or if you already have your own permanent jewelry business, I highly suggest you go follow. Go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and follow us. We are the Pink Welder Podcast, or you can just search the Pink Welder and we'll come right up. And then on Instagram, we are Pink Welder Pod. And by we, I mean me. But today I'm so excited to share my review on the new Sunstone mPulse. Sunstone sent one of these over a couple months ago for me to try out, and after 3 months of using it almost every day, I am ready to give you guys my full review, and I will be comparing it to the welder that I had previously, which is the original Sunstone mPulse permanent jewelry machine. I want to thank Sunstone for sponsoring the Pink Welder and sending me this machine for a couple months to try out so I can give you guys a review. And while Sunstone does sponsor the Pink Welder, all of the opinions and experiences in this video are mine and authentic. Let's get into the review. Okay, so we are just going to start with the basic design of the machine first. So you can see here on the front, this is where the stylus enters. The stylus on this machine is detachable, which is a huge added bonus, especially for traveling. If you're doing a lot of pop-ups, I have been using this welder for the past 2 years, and if you can see, this is where the stylus attaches to the original mPulse and you can't remove it. So the best thing you can try to do when packing is kind of try to wrap the hose around the machine. But as you can see, it's a little difficult and it just comes unwrapped. So that gives me a little bit of worry when I'm packing, and I don't want this to get crimped because of the little wires in here that communicate with the stylus. So that has been a worry for me. So Sunstone adding the removable feature for the stylus was huge for me. I love it. It's so easy to pack for pop-ups because I don't have to worry about other things kind of bumping into it or crimping the cord. Like I said, I can just kind of set it in and go. Also on the new mPulse, you can see that there are 2 grounding spots in the front, and there is also an additional grounding spot on the back. So depending on where you like to ground, some people prefer to ground from the back, some people prefer to ground from the front. But me personally, I prefer to ground from the back, especially with the stylus coming out of the front. Like I said, this was a huge added bonus when it came out. Sunstone asked permanent jewelry artists, like, what would you change about your machine? And a lot of people complained about the rear-facing stylus connection, like the one you see here. A lot of people said they wanted to move that to the front and they would prefer that from the front. But I'm gonna say something. We listen and we don't judge, but I prefer the back connection for the stylus, and I think that it just wasn't really something that I thought of before. Having it come from the front, it kind of makes the cord, which is super long by the way. So the cord on the new welder is like almost 6 feet long, and that's just a lot of cord coming at you from the front versus if it was in the back, I could kind of like drape it down across, because my welder kind of sits at the end of my table. I could drape it down and not have it right in front of me. But I don't hate the front facing stylus entry. I just wish that there was an option to do it from the back. I would love to see that on another welder, and maybe their next welder would be to have the connection coming from both the front here and maybe like somewhere in the back as well. So going over everything on the back of the welder here. So this is the on-off button. You switch that on and off when you plug in your welder. This is the plug-in for the welder cord. And this welder actually has something really cool that their previous models don't have. And that is that this is the only cord you need to operate your welder. If you recall, if you have an original mPulse machine or another machine, you may notice or recall that there is that like power brick that is connected to a cord. So it's like cord, power brick, cord, which is a little bit lunky. And sometimes if you're like me and you have to move your welder around for doing anklets or things, that's sort of dangling in the air and causing tension. This model has the little power brick that makes it turn on inside the machine. So all you have to do is remember to bring this one cord, it plugs in. The cord isn't super long, but I find that it's not a problem because I am always really close to my table. Like my table has outlets really close to it, and I always have my Jackery available. If you don't have a Jackery, highly suggest you get one. This is the Jackery 240. I originally got this because I was going to a music festival and I wanted to be able to plug my phone in and like charge my computer and whatnot. and I was in a tent, so I didn't have access to that. I bought this on Amazon and it is amazing. It's a little bit smaller than I see other permanent jewelry artists use. Like it has 2 USB ports and 1 regular port. But I love it. It lasts forever. I've taken it, I've had 12-hour events, and it ends the event with like 40% still. So highly recommend you get a Jackery if you are already a permanent jewelry artist and you're tired of dealing with extension cords, or if you think about starting a permanent jewelry business, this definitely needs to be on your list. While we are on the subject of styluses and the front-facing stylus, so this is the connection part that goes into the actual welder, and you'll notice that there's a little red dot on here. You can see the red dot. I don't know if it's going to show up. Oh yeah, here it is. So if you can see the little red dot on this, that lines up exactly with the red dot that's on the connection of the front facing welder. It's really easy. You just line it up and it'll push right in. And then now your welder is attached from the front. So you can see the cord coming off of the front. Like I said, it's just kind of a lot of cord. But I love that it's like a quick detach. So you just kind of pull it out and it comes out. That is awesome for me, especially like I said, packing for pop-ups. It makes traveling much easier. So they have 4 color styluses, which I also love. They have a pink, a purple, a blue, a bronze, and then the original black. This will be about a $50 upgrade if you decide to change out the stylus color. For me, pink is one of my brand colors, like a soft pink. So it's not exactly this pink, but I love just having a little pink stylus. But there's also something I just love so much about just the black. Like I love how sleek this looks, because our main colors for my brand are black and white. And then pink is like kind of an accent on our packaging. But if you are one of those girlies that likes your tools to be cute, and I definitely am, I have pink pliers, then this is definitely for you. And like I said, they have a purple, a pink, a blue, and a bronze in addition to the OG black. So like I said earlier, the cord for the stylus is super duper long, which is another thing that permanent jewelry artists wanted to change on the new welder models. If you'll notice on this welder, the cord isn't like miniature, but it's not very long. It's probably, I don't know, 4 feet long. Maybe 3.5 feet, and there's just not a lot of mobility, especially when doing anklets and necklaces. You have to kind of move your welder around a lot, and I've noticed that with this machine I do far less like shuffling of my equipment when I'm doing anklets, necklaces, things like that, because the cord is so long. But with that being said, I do kind of have to turn my welder to the front since the connection is coming out of the front. I'll have to turn the welder just so that there's not like weird tension pulling on the front of the welder with my cord, if that makes sense. Whereas with this welder, I could just kind of scooch the whole thing back and not have to really turn it because it was coming out of the back, if that makes sense. My table setup, I probably should have explained this, is like a table. I sit on one side and my client sits directly across from me. So, and there's just 2 desks pushed together. But when I have to do anklets and stuff, I do have to turn this welder so that the cord isn't pulling on the machine. Okay, now let's turn this bad boy on and show you guys the actual interface of the machine. Okay, so when you turn the machine on, it kind of has this little like jingle and like a couple of graphics that it cycles through. Like this one is the True Fire technology, it went away, which is a new feature of this welder that we'll get into in a little bit when we start talking about some specs and things like that. But when you turn on the welder, it does have a sort of little routine that it goes through to turn on, and that only lasts about like 30 seconds. But that is something that I kind of wish I could turn off, because sometimes when I'm, I get there like right at the same time as a client, or just have a little late start, or I forget to turn my welder on, it's kind of annoying to wait that 30 seconds. So that's a personal problem. That's just me being nitpicky. But I do think that that is something that I wish I could turn off, but again, not a big deal. That's me being nitpicky. But this is what the welder looks like when you turn it on, and you see you can adjust the jewel setting with your finger or the buttons here. So you can use the buttons as well to adjust the jewel settings. And if you notice, they do half increments, which is super nice. So like when I'm using a 24 or a 26 gauge jump ring, or like a solid gold jump ring, I do play around with my settings a little bit more, because if you use too much power on those really thin jump rings, or sometimes on gold jump rings, it can kind of give you that little dip at the weld point, which basically just means you use too much power. And this really kind of solves that problem for me. And I almost exclusively use 24 gauge jump rings. Unless it's like a pretty thick bracelet like this, I will use a 24 gauge. That's just my favorite to use. I feel like it's really low key and easy to kind of work with. And I love that this has half settings. That's mostly what I use for the 24 gauge jump rings and the solid gold jump rings as well. Now, another amazing thing about this welder, and something that I was super excited about and did actually try and loved, is that you can change the orientation of your welder. So right now it's in landscape mode, which is side to side, and then you can switch it to portrait, and then it will be up and down. So this is great if you're popping up in like a really small space and you need more table space. I actually prefer to use mine like this because I have a little case that I put my tools in that I like to keep on top of the welder. It's just easier to grab and I'm not elbowing it over. So I prefer to use it like this, but I have popped up in tiny spaces where I don't have a lot of table room and I use it up and down, which is awesome. So I love the ability to be able to switch it based on your preference. Another thing that I love about this welder is the ability to change the background of the welder. If you go into these little pictures up here, you can like change the background of the welder. There's tons to choose from. So I love that ability. I pretty much exclusively keep mine on this like spring setting. I love it. It's so cute. But there's tons to choose from. Like there's pinks, there's purples, there's oranges, there's blues, grays. There's just a simple white one, which is also stunning that I've never really noticed that I kind of love. Hello. Like I said, I pretty much keep mine in this spring one, and for no particular reason. Clients usually don't see the front of the welder unless I'm doing an anklet and I have to turn around so that the cord doesn't get all jumbled, but that is just something personal preference. You could leave it on the white, you could change it up however you like. But that is different than this welder, which when you turn this welder on, I did not bring the power cord home with me because I'm a silly goose, but when you turn it on, it's just like an orange interface with like white and blue accents, and you can't change it from horizontal to vertical, obviously. I will say that this does not come with any of the Sunstone welders. This is a stylus holder that I got from Permanent Jewelry Training. I will link her product and her website in the description box, but I highly recommend that you get one of these because it makes holding the stylus so much easier, and you can see that it leaves plenty of room so the stylus wouldn't touch the ground. I did not put one on this welder, and that is because I am sending this welder back. I only got to use it for about 3 months and I'm sending it back to them, and I didn't want to put a bunch of extra stuff on it that would be hard to take off or like leave sticky residue on it. I did put this holiday paper on. This holiday paper was sent to me by Sunstone and I'm obsessed. It's so pretty, little gingerbread theme. I love. I did put it on because they sent it to me and I wanted to make a little video for them plugging their holiday wraps, which, come on, it's so freaking cute, and they were so easy to put on, and I loved the way that this elevated my pop-ups and studio. I got a lot of compliments on my welder, which normally, like I said, some people don't need their tools to be all cute. I am one of those people that just gets a little bit of joy from having something cute on my welder. Definitely don't have to do that. They do have tons of other skins for these welders as well, so if you just wanted like a different print, they have tons of prints on their website that you can choose from for the new mPulse. Like I was saying, I would get one of these little stylus holders, especially for this welder, because I find that with this stylus, it tends to kind of crimp. So like when I'm holding it naturally, welding, it is pretty crimped unless I'm like pretty far away and there's a lot of tension on it where it can't, but it does kind of stay in this crimped position, which does worry me a little bit. And I feel like it's because this has like this sleeve on it, which is almost like a brace to try to prevent that from happening at the stylus tip. But because it's just like so taut and then kind of just lax, it kind of crimps in that space. So I would definitely get a stylus holder to maybe try to prevent some of that. Whereas with this welder, this is my OG mPulse stylus, there's not one of those really tight sleeves, and so I don't feel like it crimps as much. Like I would have to really crimp it. It does bend but not crimp, and I feel like that's because these ones unscrew and there's not that brace. So I would love to see maybe a design change to prevent that from crimping. Again, that's nitpicky, but I do worry about the little wires in the stylus becoming crimped and maybe not firing correctly, or the stylus just stops working. So I would love to see a design change for that in the future. Okay, now let's talk about the settings of the machine a little bit. So this machine goes from 1 to 30 joules. That basically is just the power that you're getting from your welder. I and a lot of permanent jewelry artists stay in like the 5 to 9 range, maybe 10, but I've only ever used over 9 once, and I used 15 joules, and it was on a bangle of my own that I was trying to fix. I did fix it, but I was not prepared for how large the spark would be, and that just goes to show you that I don't use a lot of power typically. But if you are like a metalsmith or do other jewelry making and you could use the extra power from the welder, then this is awesome for you. This welder that I have right here only goes from 3 to 30 joules, and it goes in 1 increments. So it'll go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. This welder, the new mPulse, goes from, so you get 2 extra joules, 1 and 2, and then they go in half increments from 1 to 15. So you could do 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and so on and so forth, which is nice, like I said, for those small jump rings, 26 gauge, 24 gauge, and solid gold, or maybe you just need a little bit more power, but not too much. And your welding settings can also change on your environment, like the humidity, the temperature, things like that. So having the ability to go in half joule increments is a game changer for me. And like I said, you also get the 30, up to 30 joules. So if you are a metalsmith or you do other things with your welder, then that might be something that you want your welders to be able to do. So this new model of the mPulse retails for $2,700, and that is with the regular black stylus and a regular ADL. And ADL is an auto darkening lens, and it's like a stand that your welder stylus kind of sits down in, and you move this stand around and it shields your eyes from the spark. I know a lot of people don't use eye protection, and even though the spark is small, it does a lot of damage to your eyes. So be sure that you are using an ADL or auto darkening glasses or an auto darkening screen of some sort to protect your eyes. I personally don't use an ADL. I use auto darkening glasses that I got from Amazon, and I will link them in the description, and they auto dim whenever the spark goes off. And I wear those, and my client wears those as well. And it's kind of like a little experience thing, like they feel a little bit dangerous, I guess, when they are looking at the spark through the glasses, but they really don't end up seeing anything because the glasses go dark, which they're supposed to do to protect your eyes from the spark. But yes, $2,700, standard ADL, standard black stylus for this mPulse. And then this mPulse, the OG mPulse, doesn't even appear on the Permanent Jewelry Sunstone website. You have to go to sunstonewelders.com and then auto search Orion mPulse, and I believe these will still come up. These retail for $2,400, standard ADL. The stylus obviously is not detachable, 3 through 30 joules, and you can only use it in horizontal interfaces, different things like that. But if you were looking to purchase one of these, like from another individual or from one of the detached groups, this is still an awesome machine that gives you a ton of versatility when welding. You just don't get as much as the bells and whistles as the new mPulse. And say you're starting out and you don't need all these bells and whistles, or you're not sure that you're going to make your investment back, or you just want to start slow, Sunstone has 2 other extremely budget-friendly welders. Zap retails for $999, and that machine is so sleek and cute. It doesn't have a screen. It has a dial to let you know what joule setting you're on, and that only goes from 1 to 10 joules. I'll insert a picture of the Zap right here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. That welder goes from 3 to 10 joules, so you don't get nearly as much versatility as with either of the new mPulse machines, but it is a good machine to start with, especially if you're only doing permanent jewelry and you don't really need a reason to go above 10 joules, and is the most cost-effective welder out there that has actual safety standards and is manufactured in the US. It's an amazing welder and you can't go wrong. I actually used an unbranded welder, which I will insert a picture of that as well here. Don't buy it, it's horrible. I got electrocuted twice, and I don't know why after the first time I got electrocuted I went back for seconds, but I don't know what the thought process there was. But I did get zapped twice by that one, and it was the stylus that actually like zapped me. And after that I knew it was not safe to use for myself or use on clients, and so that's what really pushed me to change to the Sunstone welder. Don't make the same mistake I did and sacrifice quality, safety, warranty, things like that for $500. Like, that's just not worth it. So definitely go with the Zap or the Zap Plus if you're just starting out. I'll insert a picture of the Zap Plus. The Zap Plus recently just got kind of an upgrade. It has the more luxe stylus that this one has. So the Zap Plus has sort of like a tougher cord. It's a little bit more expensive, and the stylus is like stainless steel silver looking. But the Zap Plus has the original cord and also has a detachable stylus, I believe. So you can order any of the fun colors that you want. And it also has the little screen so you can see what setting that you're on, which would be perfect for me because I would totally not be on the setting that I thought I was. So definitely recommend that. And that one also goes up to 30 joules, I believe. So you definitely get more versatility with that one for an additional like $300. So I would definitely, if you're between those two, I would probably go for the Zap Plus just because you get so much more versatility. You get to detach the stylus cable and you get the screen and you get essentially like triple the welding triple the welding power. But all in all, I've so enjoyed using this machine. I want to thank Sunstone so much for sending it to me to try it out for a few months. If you didn't know, this permanent jewelry welder launched in June of last year at PJX. If you're not familiar with what PJX is the Permanent Jewelry Expo, and it is an industry conference, shopping, learning experience. It is so fun. This year, the Permanent Jewelry Expo is in San Antonio. The last couple years, it has been in Vegas, but this year we are going to San Antonio, and I am so excited. I already bought my ticket, and if you haven't, early bird pricing ends February 1st. So you have to buy your ticket before February 1st to get that early bird pricing, and then I believe it goes up $300 at the end of January. So be sure if you're going to go buy your tickets while early bird pricing is still happening, and you can also use code Olivia10 to save $10 on your ticket. But I mentioned the Permanent Jewelry Expo because that is where this welder launched and where I got to try the Zap and the Zap Plus. At the Permanent Jewelry Expo, they have a welding lab where Sunstone brings like all their permanent jewelry welders, and you can actually weld jump rings and chains. So you can try it out, see what you like, see what maybe you don't like, and then you can make kind of a more educated decision if you are in the market to spend almost $3,000 on a welder. I definitely recommend if you're on the fence to do that. If you're not that kind of person, like I'm definitely not, I can watch a video like this and make a decision. But if you are a hands-on girly, I would definitely suggest going to Permanent Jewelry Expo. You will learn so much. You'll get to try out the welders. My favorite part was shopping the chains in person. Like, it's so different to look at them online and be like, oh yeah, I like that chain. And I know we've all had that moment when you order a chain online and it comes in, it looks completely different than you thought. Maybe you weren't paying attention to the finish. Maybe you weren't paying attention to the millimeter size. That's definitely happened to me. But seeing the chains in person is like superb. I loved it. It was so fun. But yes, definitely come to the Permanent Jewelry Expo in San Antonio. Come chat with me. I will be there. It'll be so fun. And that is in late May. I'll also link the website to purchase your Permanent Jewelry Expo tickets on, as well as their website, so you can find out a little bit more information if you want to go. I highly suggest you go. It's so fun. Even if you are a 2-year veteran of Permanent Jewelry Expo, there's still something for you to learn and gain from this conference. So I hope that you decide to attend. But yeah, I want to thank Sunstone so much again for letting me try out this welder. I had so much fun. I will definitely be upgrading to one of these in February or March, depending on how my January goes. If you're a small business owner, you know. But yes, I'm so looking forward to upgrading to one of these and having the ability to have more than one welder for my girls. If you don't know, I have a permanent jewelry studio and we also do pop-ups. So having 2 welders these past couple months has been a game changer. So I will definitely be upgrading to one of these, and I'm so excited to be able to have one again. Thank you so much for joining me on my very first YouTube video. If you don't know, earlier in the video I mentioned that I have a podcast over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I would appreciate it if you go and follow. The podcast name is The Pink Welder, where I talk about permanent jewelry, have permanent jewelry artists on, industry leaders, suppliers, all the things permanent jewelry. Go give me a follow, and on Instagram it's at pinkwelderpod. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down in the comment box or message me on one of those platforms and I will get back to you. Thank you so much for joining me for my review, and if I missed anything that you didn't like or like about the new mPulse welder, be sure to let me know and I will take a look at that. But thank you guys. I hope you're having a great day. Bye!